Welcome to the Bite-Sized Storytelling Show, brought to you by Commaful.com, where we bring you techniques, advice, and stories that will help you on your writing journey. Without further ado, please give a warm welcome to our special guest.
Hi Commaful, Jen Haskin here, author and editor, with part 2 of Breaking Up Info Dumps Like a Bad Romance. Let's get back into what we finished with in part 1. Writing a great book means incorporating a lot of skills that are all related. I mentioned breaking up the world keeps the pace flowing, and it keeps the scene active and eliminates the info dumps. We want to experience the world as the character does, not knowing what they don't know, experiencing life at the same time as the character. Tie emotions to those descriptions. Readers read books because they make them feel, so they appreciate when you tie emotions to your world. And don't give us details that the character can't know. Speaking of which, who noticed in my first example in part 1 that I gave several bits of information before the character could possibly know them? Kudos to you if you did. In the following paragraph, tell me what's wrong. The house was a 2-story with the formal living room, roomy kitchen, and comfortable family room on the main floor, and the bedrooms upstairs. Hardwood flooring throughout the house was shiny and freshly waxed, but covered in area rugs. Jill wondered if Susan had kids. We don't know if Jill's ever been inside this house. We'll assume she hasn't, and she shouldn't know the layout before she enters. But even at that, if the houses are all the same, and she does know the general layout, she doesn't know the family room is comfortable, or the kitchen is, well, she might know the kitchen is roomy, but it says the hardwood flooring throughout the house was freshly waxed and covered in rugs. She can't know that. She's still standing on the porch. Here's another one. Susan invited Jill into the foyer and took the gifts, then gestured down the hall to a kitchen decorated in sunny yellow flowers in cobalt blue vases. If they're standing in the foyer and Susan is just now gesturing down the hall, Jill might have an idea that that's where the kitchen is, but she doesn't know how it's decorated yet. She won't know that until she gets in the kitchen. In this first case, we transition directly to the kitchen, so it works and isn't a big deal. But if they'd gone anywhere else, that description wouldn't work. Just beware that the story may be in past tense, but we still experience it as the point of view character. So don't give details before the experience or tell us things the character doesn't know yet. And if an editor or beta reader says, "Show me more of this," do not automatically add a paragraph or 3 of physical description. That was what was hard for me. Just tuck in bits here and there that give us the world in the way you want the reader to experience it. Maybe all the sounds your character hears are benign in nature, but your character is paranoid or suspicious, making everything they hear suspect. If that's the case, give every spooky detail to us one at a time. Later, when we find out that it wasn't true, the audience will be thrown for a loop if you have led their attention the other way. And that's through the tone of your world building. Info dumps are found in world building. They're often found in character description. For example, she had hair the color of buttercups and eyes lined with dark lashes that made them appear infinitely bluer than possible. Her stature diminutive, tiny hands perched on thin hips clad in an emerald green velvet skirt topped by a shimmering green corset, tiny green slippers on her feet. That, my friends, is an info dump. The best way I know how to tell you to fix it is to attach actions and dialogue to everything you want to describe, everything you want to have come in contact with your character. Have the things your character comes into contact with be deliberate. And let me show you what I mean. This is that same bit. She slid a lock of hair the color of buttercups through her fingers and tucked it back into her chignon under a perfectly perched tiara. "Hello," I mumbled, trying not to drown in her infinitely blue eyes, made even more intense by the contrasting dark lashes that framed them. "It's nice to meet you." Her words were kind, but her posture said she was ready to bolt. I stood impotent before her diminutive stature, and her commanding presence stole my words. Her outfit showed her rank in emerald green velvet folds and a shimmering green corset. As I watched, she perched a tiny fist on her hip and tapped a tiny green slipper. "Well, can I help you, or are you going to stare at me all day?" Okay, that same information told us so much more about the story in the second example. It gave us their attitudes and feelings and rank and presence. We know the speaker is nervous to speak to her, and she doesn't care. She is impatient and or has somewhere else to be. Granted, it did take us longer to write that description with more words. That is also why it's so important to only include the details that move the story forward, and then give us everything we can know about them. I hope that makes sense. Along with world building and character dumps, flashbacks. We're back to flashbacks. Flashbacks are often seen in info dump form. Now this is going to vary. There is a difference between having a memory and filling in backstory to assure that the current situation makes sense. If what you're giving us is backstory, memories of things that have happened before the story began, then definitely give it to us in bits and pieces. Have the character remember as much of it in their own words as possible. Give them some need to explain it. Maybe introduce a stranger that needs to know the relevant bits and pieces, if necessary. Maybe they're trying to make sense of a situation that confuses them, and they're talking out bits of information to themselves even. There are several ways that you can do this, but as with info dumps that we talked about previously, give us pieces at a time. When you're going along with your day and something makes you think of a memory, does the whole memory play or just that relevant part? Most of what we remember is understood backstory. Give your character a specific memory and have them explain the understood backstory in bits and pieces. This keeps the pace going. For example, she turned the case slowly, looking at all the keychains this gas station had, flashing Susie and Benjamin. When she rotated it to the right, she saw the sunglasses, his sunglasses, and was immediately sitting on the beach again, the waves roaring as they rolled in. "Do you remember what I told you on the pier?" he asked, the sun glinting off his sunglass lens and reflecting in her eye. She peered at him with her good eye. "Of course. You said you needed me." "I still do." He leaned forward and kissed her. She spun the case to the left in anger, watching the keychains fly by. It had been their last kiss. If she had known then what she knew now. Ta-da. The important part of that memory, and the middle portion of that in dialogue would be in italics, was what he said and their last kiss. The catalyst to the memory were the sunglasses. Give your character a reason to remember the situation you want, not just pull it out of the air, and give us the little details that tell us just what you want to say. If, however, a character is having a memory or a vision of the future, that's fine too. You don't need to speak in a different tense, although most italicized thoughts are in the present tense. Try it both ways if you need to. You don't need to format it any other way. Just make sure you italicize the sections that are from the past and give us the memory inside the story. Again, the character needs to have a reason for thinking about what they're thinking, and there should be a point to having the memory. To conclude, breaking up info dumps is pretty easy to do, but it takes time if you're having to fix things afterward and spread the information out. Take out pieces that aren't important and carefully choose your descriptions based on the genre and the atmosphere you want the readers to feel. Leave in details that move the story forward, but attach dialogue, action, and emotion to them. And if you're writing a first draft, you have it easiest. Just add little bits of the world as you are going, giving details here and there that show your character and their world, and then you'll be on the right track. That's all I have for today. Thank you for coming. My name again is Jen Haskin, and if you'd like to know more, feel free to visit my website, www.jenniferhaskin.com. Thank you.
If you found this interesting, be sure to like, subscribe, and give a special thanks to our volunteer instructor. Reviews and likes really go a long way and help us provide more awesome writing resources to the Commaful community. If you aren't on Commaful yet, you can join a community of poets, short story authors, and fan fiction writers on Commaful.com.